We're here to support innovation, growth and the economy. And the way we need to do that is to make sure we are really aware of what's going on in all these ecosystems so that businesses can prepare and be aware and be that step ahead.
Lee Davis and Gwilym Roberts are the two IPs in a pod, and you are listening to a podcast on intellectual property brought to you by the Chartered Institute of Patent Attorneys.
Neil, great to see you, mate. Here we are in the British Library. Cool place, isn't it? Particularly warm day. Why are we here?
It's IP Attaché week, and we're lucky enough to have the IPO's Attaché team with us today.
Been really looking forward to it, haven't we? I think it's the first time that the UK IPO has been able to bring all of the attachés together, come to the UK and meet with various stakeholder organisations and partner organisations. And we've been really looking forward to this.
They do an amazing job. All the main markets of the world, from Latin America to Europe to the USA and Asia.
So let's get them on, shall we? So first up, Neil, we've got Sarah Roberts-Favel. Sarah, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you on. Been wanting to get you on the podcast for a long time because we've worked together in the past on stuff like CPTPP and those kinds of things. And here you are, you've made it.
It's been a long time coming, but yeah, really glad to be here.
We need to explain what the CPTPP is quickly.
Oh, the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership. It rolls after the tongue when you've worked on it for as long as we have over the years.
When you presented to Parliament on it,
but yeah, that's
not
not
talk about it.
That's not what we're here about, though, is it? So Sarah's got a role now in terms of promoting the UK IP Attaché network and overseeing that area. So tell us a wee bit about it. What's it all about, Sarah?
Well, I've come to my dream job, to be honest, sort of bringing trade and IP and international work all together. So the International Attaché Network is where we work overseas with IPO staff, but based in UK embassies overseas in key strategic markets. And they've got a job which is fourfold. One is obviously to support the trade agreements and work on those as and when they come up. One is to drive UK exports, so to help people understanding when they go out to these markets, what do they need to know about their IP so they don't misstep, because knowing before you go is crucial, because that way you can prepare, you put your IP protection plan in place. We also have a third role, which is to bring foreign direct investment into the UK to support domestic growth as well as domestic growth external. Yeah. We want to bring trade to the UK as well. So our job is also to promote the wonderful IP ecosystem and wonderful IP services we have in the UK, so that people come here and think, oh, I'm looking at a headquarters in the sort of European area, or the UK is a strong place to go. So our job is to do that as well. And the other part is obviously to help change the political and IP ecosystems within the regions as well. So we have a really broad role. We're like IP diplomats, is the way I sort of look at it, in that we sit there and we work with businesses, but we're there to help local governments and industry to share good practice globally. So it's about as exciting an IP role as you can get, really, I think. Although obviously patent attorneys are also a very exciting role and very highly valuable.
And we would never want to diminish that.
No, but from a policy perspective, I think it's about as exciting as you can get for IP.
What jurisdictions? Where are we active?
Well, we got hot off the press in the last 6 months at a new post, so I'll start there and work sort of around. But we've got a new post, which is MENA, which we love our acronyms, don't we? So Middle East and North Africa.
I thought that was a name, sorry.
No. Exactly, and this is a problem. It's this love of acronyms on everything, isn't it? But our post is based in Dubai, which we think is a really great jumping off hub for not just the GCC, but the North Africa region and the wider region as well, because it's such a dynamic region, changing so rapidly. It's really crucial for us to understand the IP ecosystems and frameworks as they develop out there. So that's literally a new startup role. We moved it from Riyadh to Dubai. We've got a new attaché, but in an older post, which is in India, so working in the India and Asia area. We've then got Singapore, obviously China and Hong Kong. We've then got the US, we've got Latin America. So we spread ourselves bilaterally globally, but we've also then obviously got an attaché in Europe.
That's quite new, isn't it, Sarah? The European...
It's one of the newer posts. One of the newer posts, yeah. And then we've got the Geneva post as well, which is crucial with Lizzie and Valet, because you can't think about IP and you can't think about global IP without looking at the multilateral institutions. So they're crucial to looking at those wider treaties. I mean, I joined this job and everyone, the wheels of the multilateral space turn slowly, and I've only been in the role 18 months, and I've had 2 diplomatic conferences. So I don't know whether that's a good thing. I'm hoping the listeners think it is, but it's been a big change there. So we've got to have good representation, strong representation in Geneva as well.
And what would you say your top challenges are? What's on the radar for the Attaché network?
I think that the challenge and the problem we always face is resource. And making sure we're really targeting where we want to be. There's so much we could do, and it's making sure we're doing the right thing in the right place at the right time. And that's the biggest challenge we face, because we have a variety of things we can do, whether it's through patent examiner exchanges, trademark examiner exchanges, judicial exchanges, sharing good practice, through to moving away from the trading space to political influencing and other things. But there's so much we could do, and it's just making sure that we're being really civil service jargon here, but intentional around what we're looking at doing. Are we achieving what we want, where we want, and when we want? And the world changes so fast, and IP is really changing fast with some of the challenges that are coming through with the knock-ons from the DIPCONs, AI, IP finance, and all of these priorities. It's making sure that we're really at the forefront of where we want to be internationally is always going to be the challenge, but that's the fun of the job too.
And I don't know whether part of the job is this, but it seems to me that there's always this ongoing dialogue about harmonisation, particularly in the patent world. Lots of conversations about harmonisation. So does the Attaché network have a role to play in that, in terms of understanding how the different IP ecosystems operate and where there might be synergies between them? Exactly
that. Finding where the synergies are, keeping their finger on the pulse as to what legislation's going on in the region. So particularly some of our attachés, they have a real political focus to really keep their fingers on the pulse as to what legislation might be coming through, what changes might be happening in other IP offices around the world, so we can see where the synergies are, but also where there might begin to be divergences for whatever reason, so we can really make sure that we're able to keep stakeholders informed. We're here to support innovation, growth, and the economy, and the way we need to do that is to make sure we are really aware of what's going on in all these ecosystems, so that businesses can prepare and be aware and be that step ahead.
So this feels incredibly unfair, but we are on a bit of a whistle-stop tour, aren't we? Because we are going to now go through all of the attachés and talk to them about their various perspectives from their particular jurisdictions. But let's finish with some high-level stuff from you, Sarah. I don't know if you're going to move on from this job, or you're so passionate about it that it's your job for life now. But let's say 2 or 3 years down the line, you're thinking, now's the time to move on. What's success look like?
And success for me is making sure that we've really got strong representation and continue to have strong representation at WIPO and the WTO and all of the work in those spaces, and that we've really managed
the multilateral stuff
really hit the agendas there that we're looking to have. I mean, I always like to be able to look and know that the enforcement landscape has improved, because IP rights are really crucial. But what I would like to see is success would be that we've got fewer issues, fewer challenges around infringement and around enforcement. So that's really what I'd like to see. But it's a job I love. It was one of those jobs,
it comes across.
You watch from afar and covet, and when it came up, the opportunity was just. Whilst I love the trade agreements and the work we did on them, this role was the one that's always been there. It's the one you want to go for.
So can I dangle a little carrot now to close? Is that okay? Neil, can I dangle a carrot? Is that okay?
I guess so. Why not?
Because you are here really to keep an eye on me, aren't you? That's your job. It's been lovely talking to you. But I know there's far more that we could explore, and I'm wondering if you would do us the great honour of coming back and let's do sort of like the full duration of a podcast talking about you, the role, the work, and everything you do, because I know it's so exciting.
I'd really love to, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, Sarah. We're gonna now talk to some of the other attachés. So, okay, that was great to hear from Sarah, wasn't it, Neil?
Always great to hear from Sarah.
Always great to hear from Sarah. So we've got our first 2 attachés now to talk to. We've got Kaylee and we've got Angelica. Kaylee, do you want to introduce yourself? Is that okay?
I would love to. Kaylee Nauman. I am the North American Intellectual Property Attaché based in Washington, D.C., and I cover the United States, Canada, and Mexico.
Fair to say, not a bad gig at the moment, is it?
I mean, there's a lot going on, not a dull moment right now.
Yeah, we're gonna hopefully pick through some of that. And Angelica, welcome to the podcast. Who are you?
I'm Angelica, as you just said. So yes, I'm Angelica. I'm the attaché based in São Paulo, covering Latin America and the Caribbean, but Brazil is our main country, the country that we work with for the moment, and it's a pleasure to be here.
So can I kind of ask the personal, professional stuff first off? How did both of you come to be IP attachés?
I actually am. I know most people who work in IP obviously have a legal background. I actually do not. I am a social scientist by training. So I come of the way of working in policy. I previously worked for a Democratic member of the House of Representatives, actually during the first Trump administration before this role. So I was hired as the UK was leaving the EU to help with our bilateral trade negotiations, and was really hard because I know the landscape in DC very well. I know, how to hang out with all the folks there. So built this really robust network as soon as I got in, but really very much from that policy space. I had worked in city and state government before working in federal.
Cool. And Angelica, what's your backstory?
So I'm an IP lawyer, and
Okay.
I've done my master's in London at Queen Mary University of London. Then I went back to Brazil. I worked for some IP firms. Then I found out that working for a diplomatic mission was a possibility, and I was like, wow, this is very exciting. So I applied, and I've joined UKTI like 10 years ago, UK Trade and Investment. And then I've joined the IPO. And yeah, here I am.
We both did school in the UK. I did my master's at Cambridge. So
See, I'm not an IP. I don't have an IP background. I'm more of a social scientist. So share your pain.
yeah. I mean, I very much came from that like international relations viewpoint.
And Angelica, Latin America, that's quite a big patch, isn't it?
Wow, yeah, it is. Well, Brazil is already the size of a whole continent, so Latin America is even bigger.
Where's your hotspots? Where are you focused on?
Well, Brazil, so we have two main agendas working with the Brazilian government: enforcement of IP and protection of IP. So we have achieved a lot of big successes, I would say, in the enforcement area. And also we have just been able to help Scotch Whisky Association to register Scotch as a geographical indication that is worth £25 million for the next 5 years. So it's a very broad agenda. And of course, now we are having discussions about artificial intelligence, as I think it's the case with every country.
I feel like it's all
Trying
done
to
for
understand
us.
where the balance of IP lies. So it's a big, interesting agenda in the Latin America.
And maybe an unfair question in terms of, well, more for the IPO than for you, but how well supported are you? How well resourced are you in the roles that you do?
I think we're pretty well resourced. I mean, we have small teams. I think for most attaches, you have your sort of main desk officer and then 2 support officers that we feed into. Angelica and I have the same desk officer, and we have a really great relationship with the team. I'm sure that everyone in government was like, we could use 6 more people.
Yeah,
and
of course.
like, Angelica now has an analyst in Brazil.
Yeah.
I am so envious, but it's very expensive to have an analyst in DC. So we're hanging on at the moment. But if I could have someone just to watch all the hearings for me that are happening on the Hill, that would be great.
And the thing is, we can always use colleagues from GBT in the Foreign Office to help us. So,
Sure, yeah.
So I'm based in Brazil and I take care of the whole Latin American and the Caribbean region. So if I need something in Argentina, for example, I can always use the help of colleagues in post.
Or if it's like a new policy area
Exactly.
development, we can call the policy folks at IPO, and they're always happy to hop on the phone. So I think we're pretty robustly resourced, all things considered.
So what's big on the radar? You've mentioned AI. We've talked a little bit about trade. Is there anything else that you think's coming up over the horizon that might be the next biggie for you?
I mean, AI is taking up a lot of my bandwidth.
Really?
The U.S. has been really, really invested in what an AI governance policy looks like. Trump's executive order day 1 revoked a number of Biden's executive orders, and that included the AI executive order.
Okay.
We're waiting to see if that includes rehashing or reviewing the U.S. Patent and Trademarks Office's AI guidance that they've issued, because it was issued under that executive order. Obviously, we work with that office, with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office in depth at the working level on these issues already. The Copyright Office in the U.S. had issued or has wrapped up a consultation on AI and copyright, much like we recently did. I can't comment on ours, but the U.S. Copyright Office split their report into 3. The 3rd chunk of that report is anticipated this year. And I think that gives us a really good idea of direction of travel in the U.S. and also opens up more opportunities for us to have those more robust working level conversations than we have. And then I'm sure time will tell what else is going to come up here.
Yeah.
Like 3 years ago, I spoke on a couple conference panels about the metaverse. So there will be something new here soon, I'm sure.
Oh God, the metaverse, yeah. So for us, the enforcement agenda is a priority for the IPO in Brazil and the rest of Latin America, but we also have COP30 this year in Brazil, in Belém, the Amazon region. And we have a very exciting program together with the Foreign Office, which is building capacity with local communities in the Amazon region. So they learn how to protect trademarks. And this is inside Brazil's intellectual property strategy. So we've partnered with MFA, Itamaraty, the Brazilian Foreign Office, and also the Brazilian Patent Office, the Ministry of Industry and Commerce in Brazil. So we are really looking forward to continue the project and maybe luckily deliver something in time for COP.
Perfect. I'm not suggesting for one moment that you're just about to disappear over the horizon, okay? But let's take you 2 or 3 years into the future, when maybe you're thinking the time might be right to look to something else. For each of you, what's legacy? What would you say, yay, I did that?
Well, I think in my case, I'm really proud of is these partnerships we have with Brazilian enforcers, with police, the Ministry of Justice, and the Public Attorney's Office. So the techniques they've learned from us and from people mainly to fight IP crimes, they use to fight other sorts of crimes, so pedophilia and bank fraud, and prevent attacks to schools. So it's amazing to see the size and the dimension of the impact of the work we do.
So that's exporting kind of UK IP expertise.
Exactly, and it's also fighting on behalf of IP, fighting IP crimes, but also fighting other sorts of horrible crimes as well. So it's and to see those people there. Also, you've mentioned passion. Those people are really passionate about what they do. They really have a sense of justice and want to make the world a better place. So it's great to be in the middle of that and to enable this to happen.
It's very cool. I'm trying to think of like one shining moment, because there's a lot of what I do. When you're successful in policy, you often know that you're successful because no one can point out that you did something.
Fair point.
So it can be a little hard for me to identify something, but there's been some opportunities to engage in ways that are very specific to where I am and being in DC. And one thing is that at the end of 2023, former Registrar of Copyrights, who is now at the Motion Picture Association, Karen Temple, joined a panel in front of the House subcommittee. It's got a very long name, but it includes intellectual property. It's like, it's the courts, the internet, now artificial intelligence is part of the name, and intellectual property, but I don't think in that order. But that is to say, she spoke in front of the House Subcommittee on IP about website blocking and the harm of piracy from websites in third countries, about how those websites are often linked to all sort of other illicit activities. It's very often criminal organizations, etc. And just talking about the need for a similar framework in the U.S., because there's not a website blocking framework in the U.S. I have very good relationships with the folks who work on the subcommittee, and following the hearing, immediately sent them an email and said, hey, we have a very robust regime here. We would love to share our expertise and talk to you about it. And so we've had a number of working level conversations. We had Representative Darrell Issa from California, who's the lead Republican on the subcommittee, was out here with Ben Klein, a Democrat from I forget which state, and a couple of their staff last summer. We talked to them in depth about our regime. I've participated in a roundtable hosted by Representative Issa on this topic. And it's hard to say if it will really come to fruition. He's definitely going to write a bill. He's definitely going to introduce a bill. It's going to be a lot of work to get other members of Congress on board. But to be able to be part of that process in such a dynamic way, no longer being a staffer on the Hill, because I used to write bills on the Hill, but in a sort of different way, is certainly very cool and something that is, it's been very exciting. And we similarly, for the CASE Act, which created the Copyright Small Claims Board and the Copyright Office in the U.S., before that bill passed as an amendment to appropriations legislation, Hakeem Jeffries, who's now the Democratic leader in the House, introduced that bill, and we spoke to his office several times and connected them with judges and were able to give them feedback on what our court system here looks like, and that's been very cool to be able to participate in that.
Oh, thank you both so much for sharing your time with us.
Thank you very much. So
that's really good, wasn't it, to hear from Kaylee and
The
Angelica.
range of skills these people have is mind-boggling.
Such an exciting area to work as well, isn't it? It seems, and the passion certainly seems to be there. So we've got Samuel and Desmond with us now. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi guys.
Thanks for having us.
It's really good to have you. Sorry, we're rushing you through at the moment.
Going around the world in half an hour.
Yeah. So, can you introduce yourselves?
Okay, so I'm Samuel Stone. So I'm our attaché that is based out in China. So I'm based in Beijing. I actually have a small team out there. So IPO has got myself, and then we've got 2 more colleagues that work with me in Beijing, and we've also got someone based in Shanghai.
Okay.
We've got someone in Shanghai because that's where a lot of the UK companies have their headquarters. So in that way, it's good for the kind of business relationship side.
And Samuel, just very briefly, what brought you into the Attaché network?
Yes, I've been working on China-related policy for a while. So
Okay.
I've been in the civil service for quite a while, and the role before this one, I was in DIT at the time, doing China trade policy. So that was much broader. It kind of wrapped up IP as well as a narrow part of it, but it was more business environment issues, market access issues, and trade dialogue.
Fab, thank you. So Desmond, same question for you. How did you get to where you are?
Right, certainly. Thank you very much. So I'm Desmond, the attaché for Southeast Asia. I'm based in Singapore, and I'll cover IP for the whole region. So what we do is that we'll cover the government-to-government relationships as well as the government-to-business support. So all our UK business friends that want to come to the region or are already in the region, we'll help them on that. We also support and do IP development work under FCDO. We also have a very small team in the region. I think I have 2 colleagues in Indonesia, 1 colleague in Singapore, 1 in Hanoi, and we're hiring 1 more in Malaysia as well.
Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a little bit of a team around you then, so you're not just working on your own.
True.
Yeah.
Yes, but I think it's because we cover about 10 to 11 countries,
Yeah.
which is pretty a lot as well. So that's called regional travel and coverage.
So what's big on each of your radars? Sam, let's start with you. What's number 1 priority in China?
Number 1 priority in China. So I would say that there's the system in China, the IP system, has been developing pretty rapidly over
Sure,
years.
yeah.
So it's changing quite quickly. And most of that has been positive change. So definitely we've seen the kind of, in terms of registering rights and protecting rights, things have got better across a number of areas. But then there is still, that's not to say there's still some systemic challenges that remain for UK rights owners. So I would say, for example, counterfeiting.
Yeah.
We do estimate that between about 70 to 80% of the world's counterfeits are originating from China. I mean, the scale of China and the manufacturing capacity there is obviously
course,
huge.
yeah.
So that's a real issue. Other issues include fighting digital piracy. Bad faith trademarks is something that comes up a lot to me and my team.
Yeah.
So that's where someone, an actor is preemptively registering a trademark, and then with sort of the malicious intent that they want to squat the trademark and maybe, extort it back when that brand owner is coming into the market.
Yeah.
So that's steadily been quite a big issue for us. And I would just say that it's moving now more my priority, I suppose, towards enforcement as well. Now that kind of legal framework is actually, has been improving over years. The actually following up on the enforcement of IP, and China being such a big place, the difference in enforcement outcomes between places, that's sort of becoming more of a priority.
And is that helping UK business to enforce their rights in China, or using UK influence to improve enforcement across the country more generally?
Yeah, so I would say it's a mix, because it's very similar to Desmond. We kind of have that government-to-government role, and then the business support side. I would usually divide it in those 2. And so if it's the business support, then it might be that we are trying to provide what support we can in specific cases. That might just be providing information or talking through some options when a company has an enforcement issue or another issue. Or maybe we can help to do some government facilitation or facilitation between platforms and rights owners. But it's also on the government-to-government side. So that's where we do a lot of sharing of best practice. So, the UK's it has a good reputation for, our IP system and capabilities in many areas. And so we will do that sort of best practice sharing to try and help bring up standards across the board. Yeah.
And I mean, Desmond, you're working across multiple jurisdictions. How does that play out for you? What would be your priorities in that?
Yeah. So I think Southeast Asia is a very exciting region because it has about 680 million people. 30% are in the middle income. It's projected 50% to be middle income by about 2030. And if Southeast Asia is an economy, it is the 5th largest.
Wow.
So as what Samuel has mentioned, a lot of the counterfeits actually came from China, but it actually flows through Southeast Asia as well. So we are part of the node, and therefore for us, we think enforcement is one of our top priorities. And because how we think about it is that you have IP protection without enforcement. It's like buying a safe and leaving the door open. So we really think enforcement gives meaning to IP protection in the region especially. And we want to help our UK businesses whenever they come in to navigate the region, the 10 countries. So you have to navigate 10 sets of enforcement regimes, right? That can be really complicated. So we want to do that, help them on that. And not just that. Increasingly, we see e-commerce is really important because most consumers now buy products online. That's why in Southeast Asia, we also focus on enforcement and in the e-commerce space. Yeah.
So our conversation with Kaylee, I mean, it's a shame, isn't it? Because you don't get to hear the conversations that went before. But the conversation with Kaylee, and perhaps also to a degree with Angelica, was about trade and the role of the Attaché network in fostering those trade relationships. Do you get involved in those conversations?
Yes, we do in some part because part of our work is also on policy as well. But of course, we focus a lot on business support and government relationships. For example, in Southeast Asia, there's the RCEP, and then there's also the CPTPP, which UK just joined. Yeah. And amongst all these, we think it's a very interesting way of looking at IP because RCEP looks into harmonizing all the IP regimes in Southeast Asia. CPTPP ups the level, it improves IP enforcement, IP protection provisions. So we see this interplay actually provides a lot of opportunities for our UK businesses. RCEP makes the IP system more common, so that means when businesses come out, they don't have to navigate so many IP protection regimes. CPTPP makes enforcement easier in a way because it ups the quality of IP protection. Yeah. So when UK businesses come out, they can focus a lot more about IP commercialization and taking the best of your IP assets. Of course, I'm making it sound very simple here. When you come to the region, there will still be counterfeits, there will still be piracy, but that's where here we are as the IP Attaché network to support all our UK businesses on all their enforcement priorities and needs.
So the hope with CPTPP, wasn't it, was that other partners to the CPTP would bring their enforcement quality and levels up to the UK?
Yes, so in a way it's like levelling up together.
Yeah. And that's what we're seeing?
I think it's going to be a journey because currently right now in Southeast Asia there are 11 countries if you include Timor-Leste. I think 4 are in CPTPP already: Singapore, Vietnam, Brunei, and Malaysia. Yeah. Singapore, I think, is a unique country where the IP regime is very strong, the rule of law is very strong, and IP enforcement is also very strong. And I think that CPTPP provides opportunity for all the other countries to level up together. And with UK coming in, and as UK is also a dialogue partner to ASEAN, and this brings a lot of opportunity for us to work together for shared prosperity. And I think as long as when businesses, be it UK and ASEAN, have a common vested interest, that makes trade a lot easier and we're all aligned in our goals.
Fantastic. Thanks. Similar in China, Samuel, in terms of the trade relationship?
In terms of the trade relationship, our involvement, I would say that so we do work very closely with our colleagues from the Department for Business and Trade. Yeah. So that we've got a strong network in China, and they have the remit to help support exports from the UK to other countries, including China, and also for attracting that inward investment. Yeah. Now, while I don't exactly have that same goal as they do, actually what you find really is that we work very close together because these exporters, as the government is trying to give support to help UK exporters grow and reach markets abroad, well, of course, they need to have that IP knowledge and understanding along the way. So we will sort of feed into that process to sort of make sure that exporters have got that IP knowledge before they go. I would say we also kind of touch on it in a way because working on these IP issues together with China and exchanging best practice and helping to support UK rights owners in China, you touch on issues of the business environment in China, and also perhaps there's some market, some of the IP issues could be seen as market access issues. Yes. So in a way, you're helping to try and create a kind of conducive business environment, remove any trade barriers sort of that might still exist, so that you can facilitate more trade.
Yeah, it makes sense. Listeners don't know, but we're getting waved at through the window to move on. Yeah, so your time is up. So we just get a little wave, but you're not going to get away without the question that I've asked your colleagues, and that's you're not going to run away from this job. You're clearly passionate about it, but at some point in the future, you might move on. When you move on, what does success look like? What will you look back and say, yeah, I did that?
Success look like? I mean, it's the helping businesses and then seeing these cases go through and be successful is really a really good part of the job.
Yeah.
Building the relationships as well. So we've both talked about that kind of priority and enforcement, and we've actually been trying to build our relationships with some of the enforcement agencies in China. So being able to look back and actually say, that's taken a step forward during our time there, to better support businesses. I think I would take.
Yeah, it feels good, doesn't it? Yeah.
I think for me, I guess it's a journey. I think it's not. It's a destination and not a bus stop. Looking back, it'll be really good to see how UK is a trusted partner to Southeast Asia, especially in the area of enforcement. Because for us, UK, we are really, really strong in IP enforcement. And look, I just hope that as this thing goes on, the relationship just gets better and better and better, stronger and stronger and stronger. We will be really happy to hear that. Like, I think right now UK, we have a 3-year lead on e-commerce enforcement, and I'm sure that in the future people will build on this and make it even better. So, yeah.
Oh, thank you both so much for sharing your time with us.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thanks for having us.
It's been quite good afternoon, hasn't it? We've been hearing all of these great stories about the IP Attaché network, and now we get to do some more. So we've got Lizzie and Aidan with us. It'd be great if you could introduce yourselves, because obviously you know more about you than we do. So Lizzie, should we start with you? Who are you?
Sure, thank you. So I'm Lizzie Wilson. I'm the IP Attaché that's based in Geneva. I work with the multilateral institutions and all the UN organisations out there. So wherever IP comes up, I try to be there. Predominantly that's with the World Intellectual Property Organisation, WIPO, and also with the WTO, World Trade Organisation, but also done a bit of stuff with the WHO as well. But yeah, as I say, wherever IP strikes up in the UN institutions, I try and get my nose in there.
And what brought you into this world? What attracted you?
So I have been a civil servant for quite a few years, and I did some work previously at the IPO where I was the desk officer that was working with the ASEAN region, and so I had a little bit of knowledge there about the IP world and the IPO, and when this role came up in Geneva, I applied for it, and here I am.
So it's great to have you. And Aidan, how about you?
Well, thanks for having me. I'm Aidan Sampson. I'm the IPO's Europe Attaché. I'm based in Brussels. And I cover both the EU as well as the wider Europe region, our bilateral relations with all European countries. I think we stretch as far as to Russia and Turkey.
Yeah.
But I'd say probably... I've been giving different figures to all the different stakeholders I've been meeting today. Sometimes I say 75% EU, sometimes 80% EU. I'm going to say to you, 80% of my job is EU.
There is a test at the end of the week.
Yeah. So yeah, my main focus is the EU, but yeah, we cover the whole of Europe as well.
Fab. And how about you? What brought you into this world?
So IP is fairly new to me. I started this job 2.5 years ago. My background is EU and European affairs, international relations. So I think I studied a little bit of IP law in university, but it was never really something that occurred to me to go into, and kind of stumbled across this job, and I really enjoy it. It's been quite a whirlwind. There's a lot to learn. It's really big, but yeah.
It's a diverse job, isn't it?
Yeah.
Diverse role, and there's always new things to pick up and new things to learn, and I think all of us are incredibly grateful to our IPO colleagues who have such incredible knowledge and skills that they share with us as the attachés that we then take out to the markets. And
that must be a great thing about the way the team's grown over the years, is you've got that shared experience and support and learning.
And I think also I really feel like it's coming out this week when we're all together here in London, is that there's lots of similarities between our markets, but also lots of differences.
Of course,
and we can draw out themes from all of us and what we all see in our different markets and bring those together and share some of that knowledge and learning, which is invaluable.
Can I ask Aidan a geeky patent question. Is that okay? I mean, it's not.
Well,
Good luck.
yeah. So I'm not an expert.
Sorry.
but-
I apologise in advance for this.
So a geeky question from a patent perspective.
Yeah.
Let me say it that way instead. So, but no, also sort of more broadly. So we've got the two offices, I guess, in Europe. That's the EPO, European Patent Convention, obviously larger than the EU, 38-ish, grows all the time, doesn't it, in member states. And then you've got the EU IPO and its footprint as an EU organ. And then you've got now, for us, the new Unified Patent Court is kind of present. How do you draw all of those various strands together, or do you not need to?
Well, unfortunately, there are a lot more strands than that I have to do.
Oh, go on, tell us.
So, I mean, we work also with the Commission, the Parliament,
of course,
and all the various member state governments. Yeah, the EPO is obviously one of our most important stakeholders. We are a member of the EPO, and we are building our relationship with the European Union. We've been resetting our relationship, and we try to work closely with the EU. They're very different organs. So the EU IPO currently does not do anything on patents. It is focused on trademarks and designs.
It got dangerously close recently, with SPCs.
Had a go
and
recently.
Yeah, so there is an EU proposal on for creating a competence centre within the EU IPO, which I think would look at SEPs in particular as well.
Yeah.
But TBC where all that lands. But in any case, these are all our important stakeholders. Europe's our closest partners, and we try to cooperate with them all.
Yeah, it's quite a juggling act, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yours, Lizzie, very different gig. WIPO is always seems to me to be quite a difficult conundrum to understand, and in terms of its conferences and how it gets to policy forming and decision making. Can you cast some light on that?
I can try. Yeah, it's a really interesting space. So WIPO, as the UN's technical agency looking after IP, it's got quite a number of roles, really. I think it's a policy space for shaping global IP rules and standards. It's a convener for people to come together, for member states to come together, but also broader stakeholders too. It also provides capacity building, technical assistance to member states, which I think is particularly valuable for developing countries, for the global south. So it has quite a number of roles, and it can be difficult because there are 193 member states, and they all come at this from slightly different perspectives, slightly different priorities. You have countries like the UK who have very developed and deep historical IP structures and systems, and you have countries which don't have such developed IP systems. So it's
that balancing act.
It is quite a tough balancing act, but then you also get lots of different experiences, and something that I think is really valuable that WIPO can do is bring so many different member states together in one space, and you do see a lot of experience sharing and best practice sharing. Actually, that exchange of knowledge is really, really important. And particularly, I think the UK and what the UK has achieved and done through the IPO is really, it's so highly regarded by a lot of developing countries, and that's fantastic to see.
Your job seems, I won't say very different, but there's a distinction, isn't there, in terms of the fact that you're not looking at a geographical jurisdiction. You're looking more at international policy. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I don't see so much of don't do so much of the business support side of things. It's very much the multilateral space, looking at some of the international treaties. So you may know the two recent WIPO treaties, one on genetic resources, one on design law. So that's quite a different role, negotiating those to providing that business support. But hopefully those treaties are there now for to help and support the business community.
So there's absolute read across. And Aidan, do you get yourself involved in trade much? Is that something that you find yourself?
Well, we have the Trade and Cooperation Agreement with the European Union, which I'd say is quite a big part of my role, is to make sure we are implementing that fully and sort of working out any post-Brexit issues that we may have. So on that sense, yes, on trade, and of course we work with other partners both in Europe and around the world in trying to get new free trade agreements as well.
So a couple of questions from me. Neil may have something else he wants to ask, but I'll do my couple of closes if that's okay. First of all, each of you, biggest thing on your radar at the moment? What's coming over the horizon that that keeps you awake at night?
So I think for me in Geneva, in the near future, we've got the WIPO General Assembly coming up, which is its annual flagship event, really, where you get all of the different bodies and assemblies. They meet, all the member states come together. We'll have our CEO, Adam Williams, coming out for that, and he gets to meet heads of offices from all the other member states. So that's quite a big flagship event, and we'll be setting the programme and budget for the next biennium for WIPO. So that's really important as a member state to make sure that we see that correctly implemented. So I think that will be a fairly big thing coming up. And then really, I think considering the current geopolitical dynamics that we're seeing, it's about the UK being a constructive partner for the multilateral system and really making sure that we can help it keep going and keep working, particularly for the businesses, for the SMEs, for that community and for our IP stakeholders. I think making sure that it's fit for purpose and works, and that's really critical.
That's probably enough to have on your plate at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, just a small job.
There's not much happening in Europe at the moment, Aidan.
Not
is there?
at all, no. One of the biggest things that is happening right now for us is the reset in our UK-EU relationship.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
We have a summit coming up soon between our Prime Minister and the President of the European Commission, and we are aiming to further develop our relationship and to find new means for British businesses to work in Europe and generally to improve prosperity for UK business. And the reset covers everything. And so we are hopeful that we'll also be boosting our IP relationship with the EU and Europe as a whole.
That sounds really positive.
I think so.
Final question from me, and that's, what's your individual legacies? What will you look back and say, yeah, I did that? Or have you got? You might not have got there yet, but what might you want your legacy to be? Yeah, that's a tough one, isn't it?
That's a good question.
It sounds like it might be a job offer as well. I'm not sure, about individual things, but I would say that we've done quite a few good campaigns in Europe, which I'm really proud of. I think, and it's been great working with the IPO on this. I work closely with the IPO Europe team, who are all great. And they give me the freedom to, devise, and implement my own campaigns on various issues. And I think it's, if I look back on this job later on in life, I will say, I did that, I did this, and I'll be quite pleased with that.
Cool.
Yeah, and I think I will be really pleased. I am really pleased to be able to look back even now and say, I have recently been part of 2 new multilateral treaties at WIPO. I've also been involved in the negotiations for the WHO Pandemic Accord. So that's 3 multilateral agreements within a year, which for the multilateral system is actually quite impressive.
It sounds it.
It's been some hard roads and not all the outcomes are perfect, but I think that's a pretty good place to be.
Thank you both so much for sharing your time with us, and enjoy the rest of Attaché Week.
Thank you very much.
Looks like a really fun programme.
See you both.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So, Neil, we're nearly at the end, but we've saved the best till last, I think, because we get to do that little bit of conversation in between recordings, and this feels like it's going to be quite a bubbly one. Do you think?
These are our newest attachés.
Newest attachés, yeah. So what we'd like you to do is just to introduce yourselves. So, Sandesh, should we start with you? So tell us who you are and what you do.
I'm an IP lawyer, IP/business. I have both backgrounds coming from corporate world, oil and gas sector in Iran.
Okay.
Originally coming from the region that I belong to. and working with different institutions, companies, different sectors in Iran, and eventually left the country because of the sanctions. I always wanted to have an international career, which wasn't possible due to the country's situation. And then I was working in Dubai, Turkey. I did few projects in Southeast Asia, and then I was like, okay, I cannot live on the suitcase anymore. I have to move to Switzerland. And I really wanted to have an opportunity in the international domain in IP. So I started continuing my studies in Switzerland. And then eventually I started working with Swiss IP Institute, WIPO, different sectors, different divisions, different projects in Southeast Asia, in Africa, working with regional bureaus, with technical divisions, with WIPO Academy a lot. So I was on the policy side, a bit of advice to businesses, coaching businesses, and also training and awareness raising. And also on the side, I was working with other UN agencies like International Trade Center and the IP part of the National Export Strategy for Iran and branding of the agriculture products. And then I did another project for EU IPO. It was during pandemic on IP and gender and how intellectual property system can contribute to women business competitiveness again in Southeast Asia. And then I continued again with WIPO, different divisions. I did also a lot of gender work on the side for UN Women, and then eventually I was super lucky and happy to find the position with IPO because I was in contact with the Geneva IP attaches, so it led me to the region that I'm originally coming from. So now I'm based in Dubai. It's 6 months I'm in the post, and I'm enjoying each and every minute.
It sounds like it. Yeah.
It is amazing. Gorgeous role, a lot of opportunities.
Fantastic. And Divya, what's your story?
So my tryst with intellectual property actually began when I think I was in middle school, and I happened to come across Michael Jackson's video, and I saw the anti-gravity boots, and I was intrigued.
The patented anti-gravity
Yes,
boot,
I was intrigued. And then, at that time, internet was pretty slow, but then it was still pretty useful. So I happened to come across, while I didn't understand at that time what patent really was, but I think it got the wheels moving. And I started to focus on it a lot, and then I realized how we are surrounded by IP in everyday life, especially. I mean, you wake up, you put the toothpaste on your toothbrush, you see the trademark there, there on the toothpaste. So similarly, as you walk around, you open the refrigerator, the Coke can, you see the logo again, the design, the trade secret, the recipe, everything. So I think that's how my tryst with intellectual property started, and I've always been quite the opinionated lady. So my parents suggested that, you should put that to good use. Why not become a lawyer? So I ended up pursuing law. And during that time, I was waiting to hear back from the Legal Service Authority at Delhi for an internship in my first year. But I was put on wait list and was supposed to start the next month. But then I had this 1 month. And it was waste. And, as students, you're supposed to have something on your CV, and there's a lot of peer pressure.
Yeah.
So my dad spoke to a couple of people in his network, and I ended up interning at an IP law firm in my first year. And that's where I fell in love.
Yeah.
So that's how my relationship with IP started. And I knew right there and then and there that IP is what I wanted to do later on as well. But I had a lot of advice streaming in from everybody else telling me that maybe you should dibble-dabble into other fields before you decide something, because you're still quite early. And we had not even studied that subject. It's a 5-year course. So, but the heart wants what it wants, right? So I knew IP is what I wanted to do. Then I did a master's in IP. Eventually, I started working for an IP law firm. Then I worked for the Indian government for 4 years under their National IPR policy scheme. Did a lot of good work, like inculcating IP into the school children's curriculum, introducing them to IP at a very nascent stage. That was very interesting work. I was part of that. And then I wanted to try in-house. So I worked for an Australian media house, helped them sort out their IP portfolio for their stock market advisory and fintech business. And then before this role, I was working for a wind technology company as their IP counsel. So quite the diverse profile. I've had the government, I've had the private, I've had the corporate. So
you also now have the accolade of being the first person to ever squeeze Michael Jackson into one of our podcasts. So well done.
Thank you.
So similar questions to we've asked your colleagues, recognising you're relatively new to role. What's big on each of your radars at the moment? What's your big priority in the areas that you work?
From my side, of course, because I'm based in Dubai, we are having a great relationship with UAE stakeholders, UAE government, mainly working with the IP sector of Ministry of Economy. So we're developing our collaboration on different IP aspects, on the protection side, on the building the infrastructure, as well as enforcement. And on the other side, we also have MOU and official collaboration with Saudi Intellectual Property Authority. So we work closely on different IP issues again, based on the Saudi government priorities and as well as UK priorities, and also on the other side, working closely with the businesses and also expanding our relationship with the businesses in the region so that we can provide better protection to UK businesses in the region. So for now, we are focusing UAE and Saudi, but there are a lot of issues coming up. Qatar is in the radar. Egypt is there. We had a very recent query in Iraq, which we didn't even commit, it's coming through. So yeah, so basically for now, UAE and Saudi, but we are eventually expanding to the region. On the policy side, working with the government, and also on the business side, working closely with the businesses. And we have also a very good relationship with the legal community. They're really helping and supporting us behind the scene for better engagement with the authorities and relevant stakeholders. So yeah, for that, it's been 6 months I've been in the post. So I think by now we have done a lot of great things, and for sure we'll add more countries and more, projects. So yeah.
And what's the score in India, Divya?
So, it'll be 2 months for me. On 2nd May, I'll be 2 months old here.
Just 2 months.
Yeah. But India and UK share a very deep relationship. There's a lot of vibrancy when it comes to the different industries where India is pretty active in, and UK businesses are very open to investing as well as building their IP portfolios in those industries. So because of that shared relationship, and plus the fantastic relationship that the IPO UK as well as the IPO India has, that's sort of, it's been easy for me to just blend in and just pick up where my predecessor left off. So it's been pretty smooth, and as of now the focus is enforcement and sensitization of judiciary, and see if there are certain best practices that the Indian judiciary can seek from the UK judiciary, and vice versa. So those are a couple of things. And then we also have a lot of interest in AI. Of course, the world is talking about it.
Yeah, today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're still trying to figure out where India is at vis-a-vis IP, because we don't have AI defined when it comes to copyrighted works, and it's more human centric. If it's human originated work, then it's a copyright. But in terms of AI, we're still trying to figure out what is going to happen in the next couple of months. But a lot of buzz of activity in that area. Then obviously when I say India, there's a lot of technology and a lot of tech related works in the make. So I think what will be interesting to see is how UK businesses can actually invest in the technology sector, not just in relation to IP or AI, but also trying to understand the deep fake and what's happening there. Everything that's, in the bylines of AI. So that's about that. Yeah.
So trade would be the first one, because you're both working in areas where the UK is currently looking to do some interesting stuff around trade. Obviously, a trade agreement with India and the Gulf cooperation countries in terms of your area. So do you expect to get yourselves involved in trade much?
From my side, when I joined IPO, the IP chapter of the FDA that is under negotiation with GCC countries was closed already.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't have the chance to attend the negotiations and discussions. but I was lucky when I just joined. I attended a DIPCAN WIPO Diplomatic Conference on Design Law Treaty, and I went to Riyadh, which was really fun. My second week in Riyadh, it was really interesting. I mean, seeing the discussions out of WIPO, because I was always attending WIPO committees and being in WIPO and then experiencing WIPO discussions in Riyadh, in the region that I started to work, it was really interesting. But on the trade side, like nothing at the moment, but of course, because the FTA is under a radar, and apparently like UK and UAE, they're also, UAE wanted a separate one. So we'll see. And I'm hoping that I'm being super optimistic here that with this FTA, the other opportunities would come up soon as well. Yeah. So on the government side, no trade at this stage, but of course, as I mentioned, we are working with the businesses so that we can reflect the businesses' concerns to the government. And as Divya mentioned, we are working on the same issues on the enforcement side, on the AI, and also IP and finance. IP finance is a big topic for us. We would like to work, and we are just evaluating the opportunities. And the government is both UAE and Saudi are interested to work on this. So yeah,
IP finance.
Yeah.
IP backed finance.
Yeah.
So lending on the basis of IP?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And interestingly, some UAE banks have started to have some,
because we've got some interesting products in the UK that I guess you're talking to colleagues about.
Yeah, I mean, actually, it's my favorite IP topic now. I love it.
Right.
I don't like AI. You can remove this part, but IP finance is because I've been coaching a lot of SMEs and small and medium-sized businesses. They always have the financial issue, especially the region that I'm working with. So I think this is a topic that would perfectly work with with the with the business interests in the region.
I'm getting Divya, so...
I think India is also in the same position because we also have the FTA with the UK. In fact, our minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal, is already in London. So that's happening. So I'm hoping that soon we'll be able to see and then work on the IP bit. But it was closed just before I joined, just like Sanas. So yeah.
So thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
I will say, because you're relatively new to role, maybe you'd come back and have an extended conversation with us. We don't have to be in the same country. We can do this remotely, and we can sort of
I would love to come back to London just for a podcast. But for sure, yeah.
But for sure, yeah. Because I think my dog has been part of several discussions loudly, and I think he knows more about Section 3D, Patents Act, than the other people. So yeah.
Thanks, a well-educated dog.
Yeah.
Thank you for finishing the podcast on such an upbeat note for us.
Thanks a lot to you.
This has been two IPs in a pod, looking at the amazing world of the UK's IP attaché.
We're in safe hands.
We are in safe hands. If you've listened to the podcast and you've enjoyed it, then drop us a little review somewhere so other people can find the podcast. Neil, I'll see you on a future podcast at some point. And to all of the attachés who've shared their time and expertise with us, thank you so much.
Thank you.